For 14-year-old Matthew Sharp, life is getting harder the older he gets. He has severe Tourette's, which manifests itself in extreme physical behaviour.
It's when you do movements and stuff, like that.
So tell me a bit about the sort of movements it makes you do.
Like saying the rude words and like throwing my head back and like punching people sometimes as well.
How do the tics make you feel?
Sad, upset, angry. Sometimes I just want to be dead.
Can you control your tics at all?
No, not really.
What happens if you try and suppress them for a bit?
I'll let them out later. What's
that like?
It's horrible.
What's your worst tic? What's the one that you hate the most?
The hitting one on my head. Like that.
Yeah.
And the back one, I go back.
And do they cause you quite a lot of pain as well?
Well, the tics didn't really come out until he was 6 or 7, did they? Specifically as tics, which is the age I think the tics with Tourette's children normally manifest themselves about that old.
Nobody could really give us any definitive reason for why Matthew was behaving in the way that he was. And we asked our GP if it was possible for a referral, because we believed that Matthew did have ADHD. And we eventually got to see Professor Taylor at the Maudsley Hospital, and it was from then that things developed. His Tourette's was picked up probably 6 or 7 months after that, when the tics became apparent.
You've got your paper? Yep.
Since he was diagnosed, his tics have sort of waxed and waned. They've got worse, but then they've got better. And then he went through a period of about 18 months with almost no tics at all, almost no symptoms. He gets tics now where he's hurting himself by hitting himself. And when he gets changed now, his body is covered in bruises.
He likes the summer because he can be outdoors and there's lots of space and no constrictions. He loves horse riding, but he's finding that it's very, very difficult for him to do that now. He also used to love going swimming, but he finds it difficult going into the changing rooms. He feels there's not enough space. He feels he's going to hurt himself when his tics are very, very bad. So it's restricting all the things in life that he used to love doing. Matthew's always been a very outgoing, gregarious, happy little boy, but he's now finding life so much more difficult that he feels he's unable to access any of the things that he loves and enjoys, and he feels that his life has been taken away from him, effectively.
It's going, it's gone. It's gone.
For Matthew, there's no respite from his condition. He goes to Parkwood Hall, a residential school for children with moderate learning difficulties, where he has one-to-one support from Dave Vousden.
Matthew's Tourette's affects him 24 hours a day. I can only imagine how that is for him. At the end of the day, I go home. For Matthew, his Tourette's in school are the same as they are on house in residence, as they are when he's sleeping, as they are when he's at home.
Yeah. Well, should we check that?
Yeah.
So, 29 and 26 and 20...
No, actually no.
No.
I think Matthew's Tourette's is impinged upon every aspect of his life.
And particularly every aspect of his education. I mean, at the moment, he finds it almost impossible to write. If he forms the letters, he will then have a compulsion to scribble out the work. In fact, we've got examples of his handwriting from when he was 6, before he had tics, and quite honestly, it's better, it's neater then than it is now.
So he finds it physically and mentally exhausting, and I think he just does wonderfully to be able to carry on and get any enjoyment, the enjoyment he does get. I mean, it's fantastic that he manages to do it.
Yeah? Okay. It's an easy one, 40 plus 10.
40 plus 50.
Yeah, so that adds up, doesn't it?
If he sits at the desk, we've got foam underneath the desk so that he doesn't damage himself sort of from kicking the desk. We have foam on top of the desk and he writes on top of this foam so that he doesn't damage himself. Very often one of his tics is he sort of thumps the desk, and the noise that makes obviously disturbs his classmates, which they find frustrating.
Well, shall I do the sum?
Yeah.
No.
The actual thought of sort of going through the day knowing that you're going to not be able to perform as well as your classmates, you're not going to be able perhaps to write what you're thinking in a particular way. And I think the thought of actually coming into the classroom and actually coping with that situation, you know, has got to be one of Matthew's strengths. Matthew's Tourette's very often will prevent him, or he will choose not to join in a particular activity because that activity actually makes his Tourette's worse at that particular time. Dining rooms are a particular nightmare, but if Matthew is in the dining room, students will actually choose to sit with him and invariably end up with food sort of thrown over them, or their drinks knocked over, and this type of thing, which again is traumatic for Matthew to actually be the person sort of doing this to their meal.
Oh, it's excellent. It makes a real difference.
Matthew has regular sessions with Dr. Isabel Heyman at the Maudsley Hospital to monitor how his Tourette's is affecting him.
He's got some tics which are really very, very forceful. One where he throws his head right back, really with great force, which causes him great pain, and he's pulled a muscle on a couple of occasions doing that.
Okay.
And
Sorry,
he is
Mrs.
worried.
Wilson.
He's worried now about hurting himself through his tics.
And some quite loud.
Sorry.
Just something very mysterious about Tourette's, isn't it? That when you suggest a tic, that's the next one that comes in.
Well, indeed.
Matthew, over the years, has been unlucky in that he's had almost the full house of the different ranges of problems that can go with Tourette's. He has had some problems with obsessions and compulsions, and that's when an individual gets thoughts stuck in their mind that are really repetitive and intrusive and worrying. From your point of view, Matthew's mood, I mean, there have been times when he really has seemed quite depressed and sad and fed up, and then it fluctuates. I mean, over the last couple of months...
I think he's very low at the moment.
Yes, I think his tics have been so bad over the last couple of months. They constantly worry him. There doesn't seem to be a 5-minute period go by where he's not either hurting himself or nearly hurting himself.
Yes.
And I think it's just wearing him down.
Tourette's syndrome can have a very variable impact on children's development, and I think in Matthew's case it would be fair to say it's had a huge impact. I think his emotional development has been affected. His self-esteem has been quite low at times because of his disorder. But having said that, you know, he's got a lot of strength, so I think that's what one has to weigh it up against, really.
For Matthew, the future is uncertain.
I think it's very, very difficult to predict how things will be for Matthew in the future. But I think we have to take each day as it comes, and I think Matthew will have to do that too.
What about going out in public and stuff like that?
That's embarrassing.
What do you think people think of you when they see you and they don't know you?
Weird. Why is that boy doing that?
Hopefully he will be able to come to terms with the person that he is, the lovely little boy that he is, Tourette's and all, and that Tourette's is the part of him that he will learn to live with.